Very bright. Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing me to participate today. I know there's a generational difference. Every other speaker today had an iPad, and I have notes, so I apologize for that part. My name's Katie Krauss. I'm a captain with the Los Altos Police Department. I've been in law enforcement for 12 years, but this was not the path I envisioned when I was younger, when I was your guys' age. I was never one of those kids who aspired to be a police officer. I never dressed up as a police officer. For Halloween, I wanted to be a doctor. Then I went through a phase of wanting to be a marine biologist. I wanted to be a park ranger. There were lots of things I thought I was going to do with my life. I entered college on that track to be an anesthesiologist, but a very strong aversion to math led me off that path. I ended up with a degree in environmental studies and a master's degree in education and a teaching credential. I spent 5 years teaching first and second grade in San Jose and then Long Beach. And then I started to have doubts about the career that I had chosen. I wanted to teach science and history to the kids I was with. I wanted to do handprint turkeys that parents would hang up on the refrigerator. And at the time, the state of California was really pushing math and reading because they wanted standardized testing scores to go up. And it just wasn't the right fit for me at the time. So my husband and I were moving from Southern California back up to the Bay Area to be closer to family. And I decided it was a perfect opportunity to leave teaching to become a cop. So let me give you a little bit of context. I met my husband up here in the San Jose area, actually at the Saddle Rack in Fremont. He was a teacher at the time, teaching high school. I was teaching elementary school. We moved down to Los Angeles, and 2 weeks after our wedding, he started the academy with the LAPD. The big LAPD, not Los Altos. I helped him study, I helped him shine boots, I helped him shine his belts, and I listened to the stories of his life on patrol in Los Angeles. I was fascinated by the career. I was fascinated by the challenges it presented, mental, physical, and emotional challenges he was facing. And so when, after 3 years of him being with LAPD, we were moving back up here, and I decided to go ahead and take a chance, and we both applied with San Jose PD. So he got hired as a lateral, and I came in and went to the academy. The academy was tough. I've never shot a gun before I went to the academy. I didn't like to drive fast. I was a rule follower. So it was really a big challenge for me. In addition to learning laws and department policies for San Jose, we got trained in firearms, arrest techniques, emergency driving. The list goes on and on and on. We were tased. We were pepper sprayed. We were gassed. In California, the requirements for police are the same regardless of gender. So we, as females, had to jump the same 6-foot wall. We had to carry the same 165-pound dummy. And we had to have the same times on our runs and our same number of push-ups in order to graduate. There is no difference from male and female for law enforcement. I have to point. There we go. So I spent 3 years in the San Jose Police Department before the economy crash in 2011 led me to lateral to Los Altos. I worked on patrol. I worked as a school resource officer. Some of you guys, I may have been your school resource officer at one of the middle schools. One of my wonderful people backstage, I actually was her school resource officer at St. Nicholas, taught her DARE. So it's amazing to see how you guys have grown up and become these amazing young people. After my time as a school resource officer, I also then got promoted to agent, and then I got promoted to sergeant. I recently spent a year on the county-wide narcotics task force, basically chasing down drug dealers all over the county, which was the best job I've ever had. In 2018, I was promoted to captain, and I now oversee our patrol operations. I work alongside some amazing people, including some of our females I'm going to show you on my next slide. These are some of the amazing people I work with in Los Altos. We have 5 other female officers besides myself, which makes a total of 6 of us. Up there on the screen, you can see Sergeant Liz Checky. She is in charge of our traffic unit. She's in charge of the motors unit, which is very rare for a female to be in charge of the motorcycle unit. We also have Kelly Janda, who is our K-9 officer. Amy Major is one of our 2 detectives. Jessica Vernon is one of our police agents. She has a supervisor position. And our most recent hire up there with the chief in the corner picture, that's Vicki Jones. She worked as a dispatcher for us for 11 years before deciding she wanted to make the switch and become an officer as well last year. So out of our 32 officers in Los Altos, We have 6 female officers, which makes it a percentage of 19% are females. Not only are we exceeding the national average of female police officers, which is 12, our officers are also in positions of leadership. Nationwide, only 3% of females are in positions of leadership in law enforcement. I'm exceptionally proud of these women, as well as the rest of the department. In Los Altos, I've never felt like gender was a barrier for me, as it was in San Jose and going through the academy. They've always treated us as equals in this profession. So the question remains, why are so few women pursuing this line of work? Why are even fewer promoting into leadership positions? It's my belief that female officers bring a different set of skills to this profession. And it's desperately needed right now in our current political climate that's focusing on de-escalation and community policing. And I'm not alone in my thinking. The Washington Post did a study that showed over the last 40 years, female officers are less authoritarian in their approaches to people. They're less reliant on physical force. We tend to use our words to de-escalate a situation rather than our bodies or our tools. And we're more effective communicators. Most importantly, female officers are shown to be better at diffusing potentially violent situations before they turn deadly. It is very rare that female officers get into a lethal use of force. So if women have such a positive impact on this profession, why aren't there more women police officers? The reasons vary widely, from stereotypes of police being male, to recruitment campaigns that focus on males, to physical ability tests that focus on skills that men tend to be stronger in with upper body strength. There we go. All right. So from my own barriers as a female going into law enforcement, I want to spend a few minutes to discuss some of the current barriers that law enforcement has been facing over the last few years. Male or female, we're facing these same struggles, including the public perception that we use excessive force, that we're racist in our tactics, and we have become too militarized. Many of these issues have been perpetuated by the media and social media. I don't have time to address all the topics, and I'm happy to do so in the question and answer period. But what I will say is that in all of the thousands and thousands of contacts that police have with citizens nationwide every year, less than 1% of people say that in those contacts they have either had officers threaten or use force. So as much as we see it in the media that officers are out there using excessive force, shooting people, beating them with batons, that is not the norm. That is a very small percentage of the interactions police are having every day. That's just what makes the news. That's what sells newspapers. Officers work very hard every day to keep communities safe, and we're adopting new trainings and techniques to try to get better. Officers right now are going through de-escalation training. Officers are also going through training on bias-based policing, so we can recognize what our own biases are and try to move past that in our interactions. I will acknowledge out front, there are some officers in this country who have done some deplorable things, absolutely deplorable, and they're a disgrace to our profession. And so I will admit that there are some who've done horrible things, but that doesn't represent law enforcement as a whole. So law enforcement is trying to address some of these misperceptions and build stronger relationships with the communities that we serve through events such as Coffee with a Cop, National Night Out. We do ice cream with a cop, pumpkin carving. Our officers are meeting the citizens on a daily basis, face-to-face, to be able to answer those questions and address the concerns that our citizens have. Los Altos police officers are actively also trying to identify the needs in our community. Our current SRO is Josh Cottrell. He recently identified a need for low-income students in our school districts to have backpacks in the elementary level and warm jackets. So we did a backpack drive and a jacket drive to be able to pass those out to our students. This might get a little hard for me on the end here. An emerging barrier that's coming up in my profession is officer wellness. And this is something that's near and dear to my heart. So if I get emotional, sorry, it's all about not getting emotional, and then I may get emotional. A recent study showed that police officers are at a higher risk for suicide than any other profession in our country. Each year, more officers die by their own hands than die in the line of duty. Researchers attribute those statistics to a unique combination of things. We have easy access to weapons in order to do so. We face intense stress, sleep deprivation, and the human devastation we're exposed to on a daily basis. Please respond to the most dangerous and horrible things. No one calls us when you're having a great day. People call us when things are going really, really bad. So what officers are seeing, they're then internalizing. They're expected to maintain control of their emotions during these chaotic situations. They're not supposed to react emotionally when they're out there. And this is trained from the time we're in academy. I included these pictures here of what is called the rubber chicken exercise. They do this in academies. You can watch videos about it, but the training officers will go by all the recruits and squeeze this rubber chicken in their faces, and they're not supposed to react. They're not supposed to smile, and they're not supposed to laugh. And if they do so, they can face discipline, writing memos, push-ups, whatever it might be. Laughter and smiles, again, can be disciplined. Training officers yelled in our faces in academy. They get right up in your face and scream, just like in the military, and you're supposed to remain straight-faced and not respond. And I know there's a purpose behind this. In our daily work, we get yelled at by citizens. We get spit on by people. And we're told atrocious things. In my first year of policing, a subject told me they wished I would die like one of the Oakland officers, which had just recently happened. We can't allow ourselves as police officers to react emotionally when people say things like that. If we pull you over and give you a ticket and you call us every name in the book, we're not allowed to respond, and we shouldn't respond in kind back to you. When we encounter horrific scenes, we can't break down crying, even if it's something that's really, really horrible, because we need to be able to perform our duties and maintain control for other people. But what we do need to be able to do is change the ability to express emotion after the event resolves. There's a stigma in law enforcement over asking for help. There's a stigma in law enforcement over not being in control of your emotions. There's a stigma about PTSD, depression, substance abuse, or other ailments. People feel that they ask for help, their coworkers are going to feel like they're not as capable, that they can't do their job, that someone's going to take away their badge and gun and declare them not fit for duty. Officers tough it out and act like everything's okay, when sometimes they're facing some really, really dark demons. As these pictures show, even at funerals for fallen comrades, officers are grieving, but they try and hide the fact that they're crying. And this happens all the time. And I don't understand why it's not okay for officers to openly weep for someone that they've lost. This needs to change, and it is starting to change. Nationally, this is one of the biggest topics in law enforcement, is changing the focus to be on officer wellness and the human that's behind the badge. We need to learn to recognize warning signs in ourselves, and then the warning signs in our comrades and our coworkers. We need to acknowledge that the feelings that we have after seeing horrific things are valid, and we need to provide an opportunity for officers to express those feelings in an appropriate way at an appropriate time. Just as student wellness, when I was a school resource officer, student wellness was at the forefront when I was working with Altos High School. It's openly discussed, strategies are implemented. The same needs to happen in my profession. Students, you guys need to take care of each other, watch out for each other, and report when someone else is in trouble. And police need to take care of each other as well. And perhaps, I think most importantly, we need to take care of each other between you guys and the police department. Reach across the table and talk to an officer. Wave to them when they drive past, preferably with all 5 fingers. You guys are usually pretty good about it. Ask us questions you have about our profession. If there's a news story that comes out that puts us in a bad light and you have questions about our tactics, stop and ask an officer about it. They'd be happy to talk to you about it and explain perhaps what the reasoning was behind a certain decision they made. Together, I think we can break down the barriers that we talked about today and move forward towards a more positive community. Thank you.